Hey guys, this is Michael, aka Ridion Wolfblood, and here is a video that we shot a few days ago with Dave's Bonsai, and I will put his link in the description below, and just a little bit more about the Jade Beastie that we just worked on. And here's some of the other plants that I have in my little grow room in the house. So we'll see you guys. Watch out for more videos on Minecraft as well as some other games. See you soon. Bye.
Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's show, it's the Jade Beastie. Hey everyone, welcome back. Michael Barr, as in candy bar. It's the only way I'm going to remember it. He just told me that, yeah. Michael Barr from the Minnesota Bonsai Society is here. Let's give it up for Michael. Yeah, all right, cool. So Michael, let's just first hear just a little bit about you before we dive into this beast, which you've got a name for it already, don't you?
I just call it the Jade Beastie.
Jade Beastie. All right, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am married and have three wonderful, beautiful girls, teenagers now. I am also a massage therapist. I've been doing it for about 20 years. And then professionally for about 17 years. And then I'm also an herbalist as well. I've been doing that for about 6 years. So I figured that in about 5 years my hands are probably going to be useless for massage. So I decided that I need to find something else to do. So bonsai is the way to go.
That's a good plan. Yeah, you're gonna. Yeah, what is the average work expectancy of a massage therapist?
Massage therapists usually only last for about 3.5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
So turnover pretty high.
Well, they wind up working in mills like Massage Envy and Keep in Touch and stuff like that, and so they're working 30 hours a week, back to back to back to back. So they don't have breaks and they don't wind up taking care of themselves properly.
Wow. So. Yeah. Wow. Awesome. So you acquired this tree for us to work on, and tell everybody what this is.
So this is Crassula ovata, which is called a jade plant or a money tree. It's supposed to bring you good luck depending on where you have it in your home. That kind of stuff.
A humongous tree. I am so excited to work on this tree. I've never worked on quite as large of a tree. One of my maples is almost as thick as one of these bases, and that's going to be fun to do some repotting here in a year or two. But wow, this thing is loaded. Looks like there's two trunks in here.
Two trunks. One of them is split into three.
Yeah. So a left, and then there's splits here for two on the right there, and then this guy back here. And what are we doing? What is the goal before we're done tonight? What do we want to do?
Possibly at least pulling them into two different plants or two different trees, and then possibly as an experiment defoliating one of them and see how it goes from there. This is kind of an experiment because all the ones that I've looked online, as far as like changing the soils and turning it into a bonsai tree, not a lot of information out there, so it's kind of an experiment for me as well.
Wonderful. So we need to dig in. So we're gonna take it out of here, split the two trees up, possibly defoliate one, and yeah, get them into a couple of pots here. We got some mica pots on the floor, and go to town.
I haven't watered this for about 2.5 weeks, but I'm sure the center is probably still a little bit wet.
A little damp. Yeah, that's going to make it easier to get rid of the soil here. And I think also what I've learned with the Portulacaria afras and the jade trees and these succulent type plants is we want them dry to do this work. We also want them dry to defoliate when we first defoliate them, and then we slowly introduce water again.
Right. Stresses them out. Says, hey, we need to survive, so they start sending out stuff.
Exactly. They start pushing it out.
So it's no longer midwinter here, but it shows some of the flowers that they're star-like flowers in the middle of winter. That's when they bloom if they're in the right temperatures.
And that's fantastic. I have yet to see them on any of my jade trees, so that is very, very cool. All right, well, let's get to work.
Okay.
What a tree, what a specimen of a tree. So it could be just left as a tree like it is in a bonsai pot. It'd be huge. Of course, you have some different opinions on a tree like that. I personally would love to have a tree that big. Part of me doesn't want to just buy a tree that's done. I don't think I would buy a tree that's like ready to just show. Not that that tree is ready to show yet, but I kind of like the process of working on a tree from kind of a younger tree although I'm also anxious to get some bigger, more mature trees and work on that ramification stage instead of just development. But this beast, he'd like to put it into 2 trees. He's got 2 pots. We're going to see what we can get, see what's underneath. When you open up a nursery pot, you just never know what you're going to find. So let's find out what we find. So do we want to go to this side right here? All right. Okay. And there we go. Naturally heavy enough, it's going to squish on itself a little bit.
Maybe.
Okay. Oh, all right. All right. Okay.
I just hurt my own chest.
Don't hurt your chest there. All right, so I need a better grip here.
One more turn.
Okay. There we go. So pounding on the pot. Now I got the tree. If you got the pot, or do you want to hold the tree?
Oh, here we go. I saw it moving, so.
Okay, ready? So you got the tree, I got the pot. There we go. Boom. Nice.
Ooh, that's a lot of sand in there.
Yeah, it's pretty full of sand there for sure.
A little wet on the outside, so this.
This might go a lot easier than we think, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's still
that
some.
was 2 weeks. Of no
Yeah, look at that. So there's a good thing to point out. You haven't watered this for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And the moment we went an inch down in the surface here, we've got moisture in there. Do you have a species preference? You kind of just have done this, what we consider that you're still in that, what is it, that craze or the zone, the honeymoon, where you like go out and get everything you can get your hands on. But tell me a little bit of your philosophy on bonsai so far. What piques your interest?
Well, anything that grows and doesn't die is my #1 priority.
That's a good place to start.
I haven't killed any trees yet, at least not bonsai trees.
Right.
I killed a couple of air layers that I tried with my own trees in my own yard.
Okay.
Because I got impatient and only, 6 to 8 weeks, and I wanted to get, they had tiny little roots, and I'm like, okay, it's good enough. Well, yeah, I didn't.
Good enough. Maybe not.
My first tree was actually the Portulacaria afra, like I talked about in the study group.
Yeah.
Because before I knew anything about bonsai, the first thing I learned was any plant that looks like it grows a tree trunk.
Yeah.
And so I went to Home Depot, got the Portula afra, and so my next one officially went and got one from Eastern Leaf, which was a maple.
Okay.
Japanese maple.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do with that. So as you did on one of your videos, you saw me make my very first cut.
That's right.
Into a bonsai. Then my next one was a juniper, just a little miniature recumbent banana.
Sure.
Okay.
So we're getting rid of dirt and sand right now from this guy, and we're going to be putting it into bonsai soil. And the stuff that you and I are using, for the most part, I know we have some differences, but for my main mix, I've got the whole pumice, akadama, and lava rocks, right? There's no dirt in there. And if I have a plant in dirt, I kill it a lot faster than if I have a bonsai tree in rocks. So I just think that's so backwards sounding, but that's the power of, and part of that, of course, is I look at my trees multiple times a day, right? When I have a house plant, I typically will walk by it, and I don't look at it except for maybe once a week, exactly. So I'm not paying attention to what's going on as much as the bonsai. Okay, we're getting a little top heavy now, so we're gonna have to be a little careful here. So we're teasing away the soil so we can get to these. And one of the nice things about these succulents, whether it's the PAs or this jade, you can just cut this anywhere, stick it in bonsai soil, and you're going to get some rooting, right?
Right.
So it's pretty easy to propagate. So we're not being so careful where we're going to not damage some roots along the way, and we probably are damaging a fair amount of roots.
Yeah, right.
But we're going to have plenty of leftover roots. We're going to probably be pruning some away, and then we'll put them in the new pots, and they more than likely will do just fine. But we still want to be careful. We're not just going in here and destroying the whole root system.
They were a lot stronger than I thought. I thought they were going to be so delicate and fine.
Sure.
But I suppose with this whole of a tree, it's well developed.
It is, but so far, other than a couple of big ones we're seeing, we got a lot of more fine roots. And so a lot of the misconceptions that just your general person out there in society looking at trees think that all these big roots do all the work. But you learn in bonsai and horticulture in general, it's the little tiny feeder roots that do most of the work. They get all the moisture and nutrients and bring it up to the tops of the tree and the foliage, and then of course the reverse trip. After some photosynthesizing, it goes back down to those roots, but it's not the big ones.
No, the big ones are just for anchoring.
Exactly. Right? We're just going to have the tree anchored solid to the ground, and so those little roots are super important. So we're going to end up in a lot of trees when we repot, especially after it's been in a bonsai pot for a couple of years, that next time we go to repot, we're trying to get rid of those big roots and get more. It's one tree, you guys. I don't think we're going to separate this. I think we're going to have one ginormous tree by the looks of it. So one of the things about any kind of nursery find is you never know what you're going to get. It's part of the excitement, but I think Michael was looking forward to having 2 trees, and he may have to adjust his thinking a little bit, but it all depends upon, people do root grafts, people do ground layers like an air layer. Right. You could probably cut half of this tree off. Yeah. And I would imagine we could try to root half of this tree. I don't know when it's this large. I do not have that kind of experience. But that would be an interesting study too, but you wouldn't want to lose half your tree. But it looks like so far we are not getting 2 massive sections where we're going to be able to split this in 2, at least at the first glance here, as we're getting deeper on some of these bottom sections here. Huh.
I wouldn't have the right tools to split it right down the middle like that.
Yeah, when you look at the bottom section over here that you've already peeled away, there I don't know if it's going to split or not. One of us has to hold on from here on out.
I was going to say, maybe we should do a wishbone and pull it apart.
We could wishbone it. Now this is a large tree, so it already is huge. But when you work on a tree that's, a third of this size and you make scars, you're going to have 5-10 years for those scars to disappear. I don't know with this large of a tree cut how fast the jade is going to kind of heal over. But from all things that I've seen on the wonderful World Wide Web, I think they heal up pretty darn good.
I mean, this barely has any scars.
No, you can hardly see a scar. And if it was something that was done within the last year, probably. Yeah. So we could be talking about one giant tree or a split down the middle.
Now I've seen here Peter Chan.
Yeah.
He's done some scary things, splitting trees in half.
He uses that branch splitter a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
And I saw a fantastic episode on Ryan Neal. If everybody wants to go see, he did like a Christmas tree, right? Yep. Your typical like Christmas tree balsam type fir or a Fraser fir or one of the pines that you'd see in a typical Christmas tree layout. And he just split that thing right down the middle, put that really thick copper wire gauge in between and twisted it around and made it look like, and now I haven't seen the result of that, which is probably a year or 2 out before we see it, but I had never seen that before either, and that looks phenomenal. If you got some tall, stiff pine trees, that technique is pretty intense. And of course, when you put wire around a pine tree and it digs in, most people don't care about that because a few years later, yeah, it's going to make it look old and gnarly and give it some texture, and we can't do that with deciduous very much, huh? Or we'd be scarred for life, and that's not a good thing for literally. But yeah, so Michael's got a rake, I've got just a chopstick. Mine's a blunt chopstick. It's not a wood one. I could use my wood ones as well. That gives a little more flexible. Yeah, that's the one I'm using. I just like this one better sometimes, especially for the bigger trees. You'd want to use one that's definitely got a blunt side to it, and you want to make sure that you're not trying to just totally rip into those roots. So that's the reason for a blunt one, and the wood will give a little bit more, so it's going to bend with you as you're trying to force away some of the soil. Yeah, so we got a tall we're going to be cutting. We're going to be cutting for some height for sure. So.
I only got 4-inch bolt on, so.
Yeah.
You might have to at least cut half of it off. The bottom half.
The bottom half. Yeah. Yeah. Not too many large roots. So, do you want to tip it down a little bit and work on that bottom a little bit?
There's a lot of sand down there.
Yeah. I'm going to support the tree while he works. This is where 2 people is a must. Mainly because if I lay this down on the ground, we're going to lose a fair amount of, well, for sure leaves, the foliage. And again, this is going to grow back probably pretty well with within a plant room, or of course when we get to a Minnesota summertime again, it's going to be just fine. But we want to prevent as much damage as possible.
So,
well, go ahead.
Story. You know the bonsai sile that I bought from you last year?
Yeah.
Squirrels got into it. No, they got into my bird seed.
Okay.
That was right above it.
Okay.
And so I brought it in for the winter. After that, I thought the squirrels had decimated all the bird seed, all the sunflower seeds.
Sure.
And so I brought it in, and my cats peed in it.
Oh no.
Because they're farm cats, they pee outside in dirt. So.
Right.
So last week, I took it and I rinsed it all off, and obviously there were some old sunflower seeds in there. So I dried it out a little bit, put them in a bag, and yesterday there were sunflower seeds growing in the bag.
Growing in the bag.
You stupid squirrel.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the pests. I don't know if it's the squirrels or rabbits or the mice that are worse. Well, you're going to have to make a decision here. Will you keep it as one? Can we keep it as one? Or do we separate it? And the things to think about here is if we have it one, we obviously are going to have to make it a little less top heavy, right? Yep. If we do that and then get into some nice bonsai soil, the next time you go to repot this, maybe you can try to split it then. Or we just split it now and we try to get it right down the middle and see if you can get 2 trees out of it. What we always try to get is that ramified root system. So you cut this in half, you're going to have a half a root system. And will this side of the tree grow really strong and the other side in the middle all of a sudden kind of die away a little bit? But of course in time, more roots are going to come out of there. So I don't know. Are you feeling bold or are you thinking?
I am feeling bold.
Yeah. Because, worst case, we might be able to split it right down the middle with this guy.
Okay.
So if we get to a point where we think we want to go for it and we just come right in here and cut right down the middle, you tell me and I'll let you cut it, but we could do that pretty quick here because we're getting down there.
I think we're going to have to. So maybe you should cut off the bottom first.
Sure, let's do that. So I will hold again and you do the cutting. So give me that one and this one. And then you decide how much you're going to keep over there. Here we go. Look at that.
Look at that.
Now, can we put this in bonsai soil and have suckers come up? I've not researched this.
Could.
You might want to save this and see what comes up out of the ground out of that. We
probably in about 2 weeks, something's
going to come up, right?
Yeah.
So let's hold on to that. You can put it in any one of these trays here we kept for us. Our next thing is to cut it.
You got it.
All right. Okay, so I have the trees, and here we go. See, no hesitation, bold.
Not going to get anywhere.
Go big or go home.
I spent the last year waiting for all my other bonsai trees.
That's right.
Start doing stuff.
Okay, they're splitting really nicely. All right, here we go. I got left, you got right.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, now the dirt comes off. Look at that.
Look at that. Beautiful. So we have ginormous tree. And we're going to hope that we get some calcium here and some roots to come out here sooner rather than later. Same with this tree. But we have to prepare them for a pot now. There you have it. We ended up having to cut the tree in half right down the middle. You couldn't see where the two joined below the soil, but when we cut it off, we got half the roots on one side, half on the other. We're experiment. It's kind of a big tree and a little bit more money on here, so it was a little nerve-wracking, but this was all him, and we cut this thing in half. And yeah, now we have to put two of them in pots. So that's our next chore, to get these two in a pot. Let's do tree number 1 and see how things turn out. You know, what is he going to do for a front? That's going to be your decision.
Well, let's see. I think if I have this facing so this will be on the north side of my house, so it'll get morning sun. So if I have this as the front, then hopefully more buds will start.
More light, more buds, more root growth down there, and less back there.
Right.
You know? So we off-centered a little bit, one side or the other. And again, this tree right now, this one kind of comes more at us a little bit, but these back two are kind of curved a little bit. They kind of go from bottom here up like this, and so they kind of open up to the viewer now. So I kind of like the front for that reason as well.
Maybe
yeah, and we could angle it a little bit more so you see the. Yeah, you don't want. I wouldn't want this one to disappear.
Right.
From the camera angle. So you hold it up. Let me go see what the audience is seeing, and we'll get a sneak peek at that tree from that angle. Yeah, you could twist it to your left a little bit more even, like nope, the other way. I'm sorry, the other left. My right. There you go. And now that just shows. Now I'll let you come back and look at it. Go take a look at that right there. Now the pot's not where it needs to be, but the tree is. So we had it like this.
Yeah.
This is dead straight on, but then this, you can see this back branch much better, right?
That's good.
So that's kind of a good front, but now we have to put that with the pot this way.
Yep.
And then, do you want it on this side or this side with this branch coming over here?
Yeah, probably.
I would tend to be on this side.
Since it's leading over.
There you go. So something like around that area. It's a deep enough pot. We put some soil on the bottom. It's going to sit up, you know, maybe about here. Maybe, and then the biggest thing is going to be keeping it in place. But I think you're gonna do some trim on this maybe right away today, or just a little, or is this might be possibly a defoliation candidate, or do we not want to do that because we split it?
Oh, again, lost in the woods right here. So maybe this one we just come back to 2 or 3 leaflets, and so that way it still has sun.
Yeah. More photosynthesis to kind of keep it going.
That way, because now that they're so damaged, see, if it was 2 different trees, then I would at least do fully
a lot more, yeah.
So maybe we'll just cut these. So do we want to do that first, or do we want to anchor it?
I think we want to anchor this guy first. I think we can do our putsy work with it after it's in there anchored. Although it, you know, doing some work would get rid of some weight.
Right.
I don't think a couple of pounds of leaves are going to make a difference in how big we are, where maybe we should just try to anchor this in. So Michael and I decided that if the tree's going right here, we want one hole from here. We're going to wrap it around the tree and go to this one. And then this one is going to wrap around the tree this way to come back to here. So we have 2 opposing wires putting pressure on the tree and trying to hold that up nice and sturdy. So the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to make sure that when Michael gets home, that if this gets rattled or not, we don't want like a whole little hole of akadama to fall through the bigger hole of the 2. We got some big holes and little holes, and the big holes just might lose some akadama, and if it does that, we might have some air pockets. And so we'll just put this here for now. It's going to shift a little bit with our wire, but I think we'll make it work. That was probably you. That'll just give us a little extra protection on these big holes. So if you want to go out and get yourself a roll of sheetrock tape, I've had this tape now for 4 years and I haven't even gotten through half of it. You probably won't get through half of it anytime soon. I'm going to be safe than sorry, and I'm going to put this on all the holes since we have it, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
And this will just fall apart with wiggling and moving at some point, but we're going to have some protection, so that's kind of good. So there is our blue tape, sheetrock tape kind of sticks on the bottom. It'll help us to secure that. Now the other thing we're going to do is I was able to go out into my garage, and this is an ode to my father. You know, my father doesn't throw a whole lot of things away because, you know, you just never know when you're going to need it. And so I have this old tube, but of course I have gotten this tube since I started in Bonsai, and I wanted to make sure that I had this in case I had this exact story where I had to protect a tree. So this is 5mm wire, aluminum, and it might dig into the tree, it might not. But we're going to put this layer of tubing. It fits right over the 5, absolutely like it was meant to be. I'd like to say we were that smart and planned it. But with Michael and I in the house, I can't say that he or I can take that kind of credit. Although I should only speak for myself, Michael. He is still here. He's just hiding. So we're going to put the bottom layer. It's the more coarse soil. It's going to provide for a lot of really good drainage. And then we're going to get a nice layer on the bottom. And then we're going to mount it up a little bit in the center. And we are going to do this beast first, right? This is the one, right? Okay, here we go. And again, to do this on our own would be next to impossible. So you go and take a peek at how you want it to be. This way, a little bit more this way, right?
Yeah, just like that.
Okay, right there.
Perfect, I think.
Okay.
All right,
So
this right over here.
Our thought was this one is attached to this one, right? Yeah, this one.
So this one.
So this one's going to come around the front.
The front? Okay.
Yeah, I think, and come around to the back. So we're going to go around. There he goes, and he's going to come. And we're not going to be too worried about wires being seen per se, right? Because you just want to get this thing secured in. Whoops. And I'll let you do the rest, and now I'll hold. So we're just going to get this thing secured, and it's not going to be probably till the next repotting that it'll look, you know, sparkling, golden, and magical. But I say that, and we're going to do our very best. So now he's going to go around and get that on that side. So we have 2 very big wires twisting and shouting. Okay, so I've got some heavy duty pliers that we can cut the extra off. We're not going to need that guy right there. And we're not going to need this guy right there. So there we go. And we're not going to need as much over here. Just makes twisting it up a lot harder. So we're going to cut that guy off. And then down here, there we go. And then I will hold, and he gets the twist. Can we get a little chubby checker? Okay, now see if that's more where we want it.
Yeah, you can see it right down the middle.
Is that better there?
Yep.
Okay, so let's try to crank one more twist on this before we tuck it away. I think we can get...
Using the gin pliers.
Yes, there we go, gin pliers. It's, again, thinner. If he had another size up, he'd probably be able to twist it a lot better. Here he goes. We always pull back and twist so it's pulling out from underneath the pot. Let's go one more time, I think. We really want this thing to hold this thing in. The other trick that Michael might run into, or not trick, I should say concern, or there you go. And then let's just get this thing down in there. All right. There. Now, a big gust of wind. This is a very heavy tree, and a gust of wind in this light pot right now where there's no soil in it, of course, is light. We're going to get some more soil in here. It's going to secure it a little bit more. He may consider attaching this to his bench at some point. He may want to take a bungee and bungee the back of this, go around his bench and bungee it here so it's on for the, you know, until this thing is established. Right now, that's pretty good.
And so I have about, it's about 2/3 Akadama.
Okay.
And the rest is pumice.
Is pumice.
Yeah.
So Akadama pumice. So the pumice, a lot of times with the trees, if people remember from my tamarack harvest, when I harvested the tamaracks, I put them a lot in full pumice. It's going to be another element that's going to hold a lot of moisture, as well as the Akadama.
That's in front of me. Well, I don't think I've run enough soil.
No, I think you're pretty close. I think you're pretty close. All right.
That's good. At least it gives a water line so it doesn't.
That's right. This tree does not have a lot of roots. It's got a lot of root to grow to the right and left.
Yeah, so when I chose this pot, I measured almost the total height.
Yep.
And then, so the pots are traditionally supposed to be 2/3 the height of the pot. And then I measured from side to side to figure out the depth, which was about 4 inches. So.
Yeah, so if you have 4 inches girth, you want 4 inches pot. And then we're just gonna, you know, we're snugging the rocks in there. We're trying to get rid of any of those air pockets that might create a lack of balance between the water and oxygen. Typically our soil is, our pot ends up being about 50% soil, 25% air, 25% water. That is the dream. That's what we're hoping for. We're doing our best to attain that. So when I was worried about this jiggling around or the bottom, some of those big chunks, even though they're bigger akadama pieces, we want to make sure that we don't all of a sudden get a hole in here where we start to, yeah, have some sinkholes or just an air pocket.
And the akadama breaks down faster than the pumice. The pumice will actually break from the roots.
Yes.
But the akadama will actually turn into like a stilt.
Yep.
So
it's the fastest to break down, or it does mainly the only breaking down.
Yeah,
Also,
if I had lava, lava would actually keep it from filling in.
Yeah.
You know, falling down. But
and then the akadama really has the only nutrient value of any of these.
yeah,
That's why we
nutrients. So when you fertilize,
right.
it gives it back to the tree.
It's one of our best sources for holding on to nutrients as we fertilize, and it, yeah, it just gives us that that health and extra vigor we're looking for. Yeah. Fantastic. You get a little sphagnum moss on there and some moss growing this next summer, that'd be fantastic, huh? All right. So we've got one potted up. Now the question is, what, if anything, do we do to trim this thing up right now and give it a little bit of a haircut? So like you were saying earlier, we're not going to completely defoliate, but what would be your first gut reaction to attack this? What are we going to cut away? What are we going to, how are we going to thin this? We're going to thin this out, not defoliate.
Right.
So how are you going to thin on it? What do you think about doing?
Traditionally, what I found and what I've done with my own jades, my smaller jades, is cutting everything back to 2 or 3 leaves.
Sure.
And then next year we can go about taking branches off, and because I noticed there's a big one here that's going inside the tree. There's 2 of them that really go inside the tree. So this
Yes.
one.
So that one we would just cut off. We typically don't want branches on the inside,
Probably this one here.
and he'll keep those to propagate.
Those are huge.
So just as a comparison, here we go, everybody. Propagation is thicker than my 2 trees over here. Yeah, okay. I won't cry for too long. All right. So as we work on this together then, if we grab any branch here, any defoliation, now this leaf right here is just fallen off, okay, we take that off. Anything that's growing on the inside right here or straight up, I'm going to get rid of that one right there because it's going up towards this branch. And so we've thinned that out a little bit. This is growing right towards the viewer right here, so I can cut that one off. And if we actually, Michael, just cut all the big leaves off, that would be one thing right there. That would thin the tree out a lot, and we got all the smaller leaves compared to like this big guy right here, right? I mean, even that can work too. Depends upon if you want to keep that as a part of the structure, of course.
Supposedly you should just be able to twist them off.
You should be able to, yeah, if it's in of course, if I think the moisture there are they going to hold it a little bit long?
Yeah, probably. Since there was still water in there.
With a tree this big, this whole process would take, you know, an enormous amount of time. We'll get as much as we can done tonight here before we decide to work on the other tree. And then Michael, of course, can go back and, you know, he can take a peek at what we accomplished and say, hey, you know, we got to take more off of this one or that one. There's nothing saying we have to finish it all tonight. So yeah, technically we're going to thin this tree out. We're thinning it out so it can ramify better. More light will get through to maybe make the branches grow where we want them to grow. And right now we're also concerned about the weight of this tree a little bit, so we want to make sure we're getting this thing a little bit down in weight, so it won't be so threatening to fall over on his bench.
This is going to go right next to my patio door, south-facing window, as soon as I get home, right away. And hopefully the cats won't try to get it.
If we were in the summertime and we did this, we could probably just defoliate the entire thing, and then it would start to go crazy. So you can really decide what you want to keep growing.
Yeah, because then you can actually work on the branches themselves.
That's right. Testing. All right. Making sure we can still hear us talk.
I know why Jerome has what's her name help? What's her name? I can't remember her name. From the Bonsai Supply.
Which I believe is his wife, right?
Yeah.
That's why he has his wife help, because this is a lot of work here. Yeah, we could do this for another hour or two, Michael.
Yeah, if you want to get real specific.
So, some of the reasoning to get rid of some of the foliage too is the fact that we just cut this tree in half. We have far less roots down there at the bottom now to support this tree. So with some species, and I don't know them all at the tip of my brain all the time, but some species, if you have so much foliage on top, there's not enough roots to support it, you're going to have some imbalance there. Yeah, the energy is not going to be there to support all that. Having all the leaves up top, you get that early photosynthesis process to really kick those energies back into the roots to help them to fill out, right? But then when does that cycle kick in for the roots to need to supply the foliage? That's the question. And so I think you have to really find that balance. And every species is a little bit different. And this is where your bonsai tree, right? What you do to it compared to what I do with it, you might decide something completely different. This guy right here could probably go, right? This is coming towards the camera.
Yep.
And it's inside branch. This one you probably don't even need.
No, and it's shaded out by the rest of it.
And it's not going to grow that much, so you could cut that one out too. You could do that even now if you wanted to. Tree doesn't look too bad. Now, we didn't do too much thinning out on top, and he's got a lot of inside branches in there that upon closer inspection, we could cut some more inside branches, ones that are kind of inside, tucked away, not going to get much light, but he wants it to recover. He was good leaving it alone, so it was time to tackle tree number 2. Now, unfortunately, had some technical difficulties with the audio. The microphone was really going in and out a lot, and so there wasn't a lot of usable audio from the second section. So here is my camera, which I had as a backup, which was my iPhone, but my iPhone was on time-lapse. So here's a quick time-lapse of tree number 2. But you won't have to fast forward because it's only going to take a couple of minutes. So here you go, tree number 2, let's get that in a pot. He's got 2 great trees that could become spectacular trees. So again, the audio wasn't usable on that, just bits and pieces. And so here's what I'll let you know. For this last little section here, as I show you some of the video but not the audio, what I said about both trees at some point, but I think mainly about this second tree, is that we really didn't bring the tree down at all. He didn't prune anything back in height, and that's okay. He likes the trunk thickness. And if he likes the height of the tree, he could leave it that tall and let it ramify and ramify. But keep in mind, and I'll have a diagram here for you of the tree, and I'll draw a couple of lines of color to show you where he could have a future ramification section. Because when you have a tree that, say it's 1.5 feet, 2 feet tall, and you want it to stay that tall, you really have to cut it back quite low so the ramification years down the road reaches to that maybe 1.5 to 2 foot level. So again, you have to kind of imagine the tree much smaller and then have the ramification. So these 2 trees have some decent ramification at the top, maybe quarter of the tree, maybe not even that much. And so you'd probably want to cut all that ramification off. So if he was really gutsy next year in the summer, I would recommend that he would cut the tree almost a third of it off, if not more, a third or even a half. Then it's going to ramify down there, and then you'll have more ramification a little higher, and then even more a little higher, so you get to that final stage. So you don't want to take this exact tree right now and let it ramify from here, because then the tree's going to gain another 6 to 8 to 10 inches, maybe more. If you want it that big, fine, if you like the ramification down below. If you want to get more ramification and keep it at the height it's at, if you think it's proportionally okay, then you go ahead and do what you think is best. So don't be afraid to cut it way back. If the trunk is where you like it, now cut it back and work on the secondary and the tertiary branches with all that ramification. A special thank you to Michael for letting me be a part of this experience. This was awesome. I've not worked on such a big tree in all my bonsai experience. Fabulous. So I was so glad he invited me to do this, and then I got to share it with you guys. So cool. So I hope you have a tree like this that you can work on sometime, and make sure you have someone to help you if it's this big of a tree. You've noticed probably, or you noticed in the video, that we had 2 hands on it a lot. And with the weight of the tree and making sure that we don't let anything break or bump into it or lean down on the table while you're trying to get it out of the pot or move things around, wiring it up to put it in the pot, all of these things, there's a lot of work on this tree. And it's stressful enough on the tree, but if one of us was working on this tree, we probably would have broke a lot of limbs and it just would have been kind of ugly. So get the support you need and have fun with a tree like this. I hope you get that experience sometime soon. Hey, thanks for joining us today. We certainly had a fun time doing this, and I can't wait, as I mentioned, I can't wait to have an update on this show. I can't wait to see what this develops into. It'll be fantastic to follow over the course of the next couple of years. So hey, take care of yourself, take care of your bonsai, and I will see you very soon with some more videos. Take care, everybody. I can't wait for an update show.